Shalom, family. Most High in Christ bless. Can everybody hear and see me? Everybody hear and see. All right, all praises. All right, all praises, all praises. All right, I'm gonna give everybody a minute to get on. I'm giving it till about 4:08. Um, so we'll be starting with our four chapters. We'll be leaving off, starting off where we left off at Job 41 through Psalms chapter 2 is what we'll be dealing with today. Is there a brother online that can scribe for me? Just type yes, I can scribe if you can. Is there a brother on that can scribe for me? All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. We're reading our four chapters. Once again, we're doing Job chapter 41 to Psalms chapter 2. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So this is Job chapter 41 and verse 1. It says, "Canst thou draw out Leviathan with a hook, or his tongue with a cord which thou lettest down? Canst thou put a hook into his nose, or bore his jaw?" So the Leviathan he's speaking about is the beast that he created. When you read about it in the Apocrypha, you have Leviathan, you have the Behemoth, and you have Leviathan. So Leviathan is the one that deals in the waters. He's the one that deals in the waters. So canst thou draw out Leviathan with a hook, or his tongue with a cord which thou lettest down? Canst thou put a hook into his nose, or bore his jaw through with a thorn? So he's comparing it to fishing with just a small sized fish. So we know Leviathan is a massive creature. Verse 3 says, "Will he make many supplications unto thee? Will he speak soft words unto thee? Will he make a covenant with thee? Wilt thou take him for a servant forever? Wilt thou play with him as with a bird, or wilt thou bind him for thy maidens? Shall the companions make a banquet of him? Shall they part him among the merchants? Canst thou fill his skin with barbed irons, or his head with fish spears? Lay thine hand upon him, remember the battle, do no more. Behold, the hope of him is in vain. Shall not one be cast down even at the sight of him? None is so fierce that dares stir him up. Who then is able to stand before him? Before me, I'm sorry. Who hath prevented me that I should repay him? Whatsoever is under the whole heaven is mine. I will not conceal his parts, nor his power, nor his comely proportion. Who can discover the face of his garment, or who can come to him with his double bridle? Who can open the doors of his face? His teeth are terrible round about. His scales are his pride, shut up together as with a close seal. One is so near to another that no air can come between. So he's describing the beast. We're in verse 17. It says, they are joined one to another, they stick together that they cannot be sundered. By his nestings a light does shine, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. Out of his mouth go burning lamps, and sparks of fire leap out. So it explains that out of Leviathan's mouth go burning lamps and sparks of fire leap out. So I'm sure we've all seen the movies with fire breathing dragons, things like that, which everybody tends to take as a mythological is a word for mythological creatures and things like that. But the Lord is describing a creature like this. Even when you read in the Apocrypha about the about Egypt when it was dark, the different beasts that they had. But just at this point, he's talking about the burning lamp. Out of his mouth go burning lamps, and sparks of fire leap out. Out of his nostrils go with smoke, and as out of a seething pot or cauldron. His breath kindled coals, and a flame goeth out of his mouth. So just me hearing this, like this, I think it's a brother or sister. Brother said Godzilla, right? Godzilla. So what they know where they getting all these stories. They get these creatures. They didn't just come up with these creatures. They found them in the scriptures. Now nobody's gonna find these. Nobody's gonna run around and just run into a leviathan or run into a behemoth. They're not gonna just run into these things. But that's what it's explaining. It's describing this particular beast. So we're in verse. Let's start at 21 again. It says, "His breath kindleth coals, and a flame goeth out of his mouth. In his neck remaineth strength, and sorrow is turned into joy before him. The flakes of his flesh are joined together. They are firm in themselves; they cannot be moved." So it's really going to the same exact thing that we read in verse 15, where it says the scales are his pride, shut up together as with a close seal, meaning they're very tight. His scales are very tight together. One is so near to another that no air can come between them. So that's a real tight. That's some tight scales. I say that. That's the best way I can put it. But the scripture says in verse 24, it says 23. I'm sorry. So the flakes of his flesh are joined together. They are firm in themselves. They cannot be moved. So imagine this giant creature with scales, with fire breathing. It's what you see in the movies. Is what you see in the movies. Verse 24 says, "His heart is as firm as a stone, yea, as hard as a piece of the nether millstone. When he raiseth up himself, the mighty are afraid. By reason of breakings, they purify themselves." So this is a beast that will terrify the mightiest of men. No man is going to come up and try to fight with this creature, because he made two to rule, one to rule the earth, and one to rule the sea. So this is the particular one we're looking at, which is Leviathan. So if you have a creature that is set to rule the sea, this thing has to be strong, has to be powerful, it has to be great above all others, all the other creatures that are in its domain. So we're in verse 26. It says, "The sword of him that layeth at him cannot hold, the spear, the dart, nor the habergeon. He esteemeth iron as straw and brass as rotten wood. So this is all these different material, all these different weapons. You have weapons made of straw, or weapons made of iron, weapons made of brass. He said these things are esteemed as straw and wood, meaning you can't do nothing with this creature. The arrow cannot make him flee. Sling stones are turned with him into stubble. Because we go back and we mentioned about the fire, you mentioned about the strong scales, the strength that's in his neck. Verse 29 says, darts are counted as stubble. He laugheth at the shaking of a spear. Sharp stone under him. He spreadeth sharp pointed things upon the mire. Verse 31, he maketh the deep to boil like a pot. He maketh the sea like a pot of ointment. So this stuff sounds so far fetched that it's hard to explain or even imagine. Imagine how this stuff looks to even explain it. Remember in the scriptures it talks about the kingdom is going to be a place that you can't even imagine. So just looking at even some of these beasts that he created, we can't even imagine what they look like because it's not a beast that he's just openly displaying to our people. Where in verse 32 it says, he maketh the path to shine after him. One would think the deep to be hoary. Upon earth there is not his like, who is made without fear. He beholdeth all things. He is a king over all the children of pride. So basically, this whole chapter is going over Leviathan. And in the previous chapter, it talks about Behemoth. So if you read in 40 and 15, it says, "Behold now Behemoth." So it goes into Behemoth in verse chapter 40, and then 41 it talks about Leviathan. It's a brief description of him. So let's go into chapter 42. It says, "Then Job answered the Lord and said, I know that thou canst do everything, and that no thought can be withholden from thee." He's speaking to the Lord. He's saying there's no thought that can be withholden from the Lord. And that's something, these are little things that you read in the scriptures you should probably take heed to. Just like it says in Matthew, I think it's chapter 12, about we're judged by our words, and the Lord he hears our thoughts, he hears all of our words. So these are things that we got to keep in mind. Our forefathers clearly knew. It says, "I know that thou canst do everything, and that no thought can be withholden from thee." Meaning, there's no thought that I can have that the Lord's not going to know about. So the hatred that you have for somebody, or the preeminent spirit or prideful spirit, whatever spirit that you have, you can't hide these things from the Lord. So the Lord knows the inward parts of men. But verse 3 says, "Who is he that hideth counsel without knowledge? Therefore have I uttered that I understood not, things too wonderful for me, which I knew not. Hear, I beseech thee, and I will speak. I will demand of thee, and declare thou unto me. I have heard of thee by the hearing of the ear, but now mine eye seeth thee. Wherefore I pour myself and repent in dust and ashes." So dust and ashes just referring to the custom we had of putting ashes and things on our head. It was part of our showing sorrow, or repentance. Verse 7 says, "And it was so that after the Lord had spoken these words unto Job, the Lord said to Eliphaz the Temanite, My wrath is kindled against thee and against thy two friends, for ye have not spoken of me the thing that is right, as my servant Job hath." So when you read Job in his entirety, you had his three friends that spoke with him after his kids was killed, all his things were taken from him, and the way his friends had dealt with him. If you've been following throughout, so what the Lord was saying was, it says, "My wrath is kindled against thee and against thy two friends, but ye have not spoken of me the thing that is right, as my servant Job has." So you guys have not dealt righteously as your brother Job has. Remember, we read Job 1:1. It says Job was a perfect man. So it says, verse 8, it says, "Therefore take unto you now 7 bullocks and 7 rams, and go to my servant Job, and offer up for yourselves a burnt offering." So he's telling them to get a sacrifice for their sins, for them not dealing righteously. So it says, "I want you to take these offerings and take it to Job. He's the righteous one in this situation. So take it to Job." It says, "And my servant Job shall pray for you. For him will I accept." lest I deal with you after your folly, and that ye have not spoken of me the thing which is right, like my servant Job. So if you read, like I said, if you read Job, you followed along, you kind of see the type of dealings that Job had, and the type of dealings that his friends, his three friends had. So the Lord said that they needed to bring a sacrifice on their behalf, but they had to bring it to Job. Job, he would only hear Job's words, and that's kind of how it works when you look at the priesthood that we had when you read back in Leviticus, the 5 books, or all the way throughout, all the way throughout history until this particular the sacrifice was taken away. But we will always take it to the Levites, take it to the priests, and they would do it on behalf of us. And if we didn't bring a sacrifice, and obviously, like it says for him will I accept, lest I deal with you after your folly. So we didn't bring our sacrifices, the Lord would deal with us. And the things that we did would not be forgiven. So I'm gonna start again in verse 8. It says, therefore take you now 7 bullocks and 7 rams, and go to my servant Job, and offer up for yourselves a burnt offering, and my servant Job shall pray for you. For him will I accept, lest I deal with you after your folly, and that ye have not spoken of me the thing which is right, like my servant Job. So Eliphaz the Temanite, and Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite went and did according to the Lord, according to the Lord commanded them. The Lord also accepted Job, so he accepted the offerings on behalf of Eliphaz, Bildad, and Shuhite. Verse 10. It says, and the Lord turned the captivity of Job when he prayed for his friends. Also the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before. So it says in verse 10, it says, and the Lord turned the captivity of Job when he prayed for his friends. So it's not obviously not just a prayer that got them their forgiveness, but it was the righteous, like it says in Job, not Job, but James 5:17. Let me just get that real quick. James chapter 5 and verse, James chapter 5 verse 16. It says, confess your faults one to another, and pray one for another, that ye may be healed. The effectual fervent prayer of the righteous man availeth much. So that's the only point I wanted. But even in this situation, the affectionate, fervent prayer of Job is what availed much in this situation, that these brothers weren't dealt with after their folly. So it shows that the Lord deals with those that are dealing in righteousness. So back to Job 42, verse 11. It says, then came there unto him all his brethren, all his sisters, and all they that had been of his acquaintance before, and did eat bread with him in his house. And they bemoaned him, and comforted him over all the evil that the Lord had brought upon him. Every man also gave him a piece of money, and every one an earring of gold. So his friends, after the fact, they came and they comforted him. They bemoaned him. They comforted him in his situation after all the things that had happened. Like I said, he had his kids were killed, all his possessions was taken, all these things happened to him. So after the Lord turned his captivity, he received more, and his friends returned as well. So verse 12 says, so the Lord blessed the latter end of Job more than his beginning. So what Job had in the beginning, he got more in the end. But there's a point to him receiving more than what he had in the beginning. But I'm going to keep reading. I'm going to read from the top. Verse 12 says, so the Lord blessed the latter end of Job more than his beginning, for he had 14,000 sheep and 6,000 camels, and 1,000 yoke of oxen and 1,000 she-asses. He had also 7 sons and 3 daughters, and he called the name of the first Jemimah, and the name of the second Keziah, and the name of the third Karen Hapuk. And in all the land were no women found so fair as the daughters of Job, and their father gave them inheritance amongst their brethren. After this lived Job 140 years, and saw his sons and his sons' sons, even 4 generations. So Job died, being old and full of days. So Job received much more than what he had in the beginning, all because he was able to stay faithful to the Lord all the way to through that trial. So the trial that he was given, the Lord had to see, is he gonna fix himself? Is he gonna stay faithful, or is he going to curse me? So I just want to jump back to Job chapter 1, just kind of paint the picture of what was taking place throughout this whole thing, what the purpose was for trying Job this way. We're just gonna jump to Job chapter 1 and verse Job chapter 1 verse 7. It says, "And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, Doth Job fear God for naught? Has not thou made an hedge about him, and about his house, and about all that he had on every side? Though thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. But put forth thine hand now, and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face." So the point was to see, will Job curse the Lord? That's the point of the trial that he had to go through, to see if he's going to curse the Lord in this situation. And as we see we see that Job stayed faithful through the trial, and more was given to him in the end. And we got to see these particular types of situations and see that's the same thing that happens to us. Like you read in Revelations 14 or 12, here's a patience, faith and the patience of the saints. So we endure to the end. The same thing that we see with Job is the same thing that happens with us. Because in verse 10 it said, 42 and 10 it says, "And the Lord turned the captivity of Job." At some point, the Lord's going to turn the captivity of the Israelites. Those that kept the commandments, he's going to turn their captivity, and he's going to repay them for everything all the righteousness that they've done while they were here on this earth, while they were here on this earth, we're going to receive a reward for that, and it's going to be much more than double what we have now. Because right now we have big houses, we have small houses, we have families, we have cars, we have nice jobs, whatever it is that we have. We have these different material possessions here on this earth. But the Lord's going to give us much, much more in the kingdom. So we have to read these particular types of stories and take something from it and see how we're supposed to move. But I'm gonna move on to Psalms chapter 1. Psalms chapter 1 and verse 1. It says, "Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and his law doth he meditate day and night." So this man, he says, "Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly." So just reading basic stuff in the scripture shows you there's only particular ways to be blessed. It says you don't walk in the counsel of the ungodly, meaning you don't walk in wicked ways, which is eating pork, or a counsel of ungodly in this season would be Christmas or Thanksgiving or Valentine's Day, or New Year's. All these different holidays are coming up. But he said, "Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful." Meaning you got to be very mindful of what you do, especially around this season. They got the music playing. They've been having this music playing for months. They have it blasting at every store you go into. Remember, blessed is a man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly. Verse 2 it says, "But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and his law doth he meditate day and night." So this is something that we got to get in the habits of meditating day and night on the commandments. Not when you remember, it shouldn't be a second thought to think about the commandments. Thinking about the commandments should be day in, day out, all the time. And if you're not there, work on getting there. Pray on it, fast on all these different things that you got to do. Studying. If you read the Bible more and more, it's going to be easier to keep your mind in it. Verse 3 says, "And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doth, whatever he doeth, shall prosper." So it's the same thing you read in Joshua 1 and 8. You'll be successful if you meditate in the day in the commandments day and night. And meditating is not just thinking about it. It's talking about you'll be blessed and you'll be successful and you'll prosper if you actually do them. You can read the Bible all day. You know, I'm sure a lot of us came from Christianity and we've meditated and thought about the command, not even the commandments. I was not say I'm not gonna say the commandments. I'll say we thought on scriptures day in and day out if we were heavy in the church. Some of us did, but the point here is somebody that is actually keeping walking righteously. That's the difference. So it says the ungodly are not so. So meaning the ungodly will not prosper like the righteous will, but are like the chaff which the wind driveth away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. But the Lord the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly should perish. So this should be your these should be reminders for you as you walk through these last days that you not that is not rolling with ungodly people. He's not rolling with anybody that is halfway in, halfway out. The Lord doesn't deal with that. He deals with those that are walking righteously. So you can't choose to say I'm gonna go to this Christmas party. You know, it's nothing but a work Christmas party. I'm just going there to appease the people. That's not appeasing the people. That's doing something a little bit different. But we people are that good tree, that tree planted by the rivers of water. The righteous, those people will do everything they can to make sure walking in the way of the godly and making sure that they're not making excuses for why they can't do certain things. So, chapter 2, we'll go to chapter 2, verse 1. It says, why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? So, the heathen, we know, are the other nations. The heathen rage and imagine a vain thing. So, I'm sure a lot of us already watched these different classes. Leadership has had many classes on this particular chapter. They rage. Why? Because they see that our people are waking up. You look at how things go in Israel. They try to attack our people because when they see us teaching, when they see us in these different, you see a lot of hatred coming from the other nations. Even those, even against the unrighteous of our people, they rage against the unrighteous. If you positive, or if you go against anything that they like, there's rage. They rage against our people. They don't like our people. They have hatred towards our people. And this is why, verse 2. So the kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed. Let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh, shall have them in derision. So these other nations, they have it for our destruction. They're looking for our destruction. They want our people to stay on the bottom. They put things in place to keep us on the bottom. They keep us in a sleep state. You look at our people when Christmas comes up, Thanksgiving comes up, all these different holidays come up. That's another chance for them to put us to sleep because of that rage. The rage is what is driving these other nations to keep us the way that we are because they understand if we get back in power, all the stuff that they're doing to us currently and that they've done to us is going to be put back to them. So verse 5 it says, then shall he speak unto them in his wrath and vex them in his sore displeasure. So the Lord is letting you know that he's gonna have the last laugh at the end of the day. So even though these nations are mocking us, they're oppressing us, they putting us all through all types of hell, he's still letting us know that at the end of the day, he will have the last laugh. And that's something we got to keep in the back of our heads that no matter what's going on, the Lord is still the one that's going to have the last laugh. Even if you die here on this earth, even if you kill here on this earth, the Lord's still going to have the last laugh. Verse 6, it says, yet have I set my king upon my holy hill of Zion. So what is that holy hill? Let's go to Matthew 2 and 6 real quick. So he said he set his king upon his holy hill. Matthew 2 and 6 really quick. It says, and now Bethlehem in the land of Judah art the least, not the least among the princes of Judah, for out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my people Israel. So We know that Matthew chapter 2, we're talking about Christ. It's talking about Christ's birth. So Christ is going to rule his people Israel. So that's the governor. He says, "Yet I have set my king upon the holy hill," which is Christ. Zion is Israel. Is another word for Israel, the Israelites. It's another term that's used that the Lord uses to refer to his people. So he set Christ upon. He said Christ to be a ruler of his people, Israel. So verse 7 it says, "I will declare, the Lord has said unto me, Thou art my son, this day have I begotten thee." So we get more clues that this is talking about Christ. Verse 8 says, "Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession." So this is this is the promise that we get. Remember, he mentioned that in chapter 1. No, I mentioned in Job that Job received much more than what he went into the trial with. Same thing with us. Our walk in this life is a trial. So we're gonna receive much more. And one of them things is he says, "I shall give thee the heathen for thy inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession." So the same thing that Christ is gonna receive, he's gonna give us that same inheritance. So like in Luke chapter, let's go to Luke real quick. Not Luke, I'm sorry, Leviticus. Leviticus chapter 24. 24? No, 25 and verse 44. Things are going to go back the way they were supposed to be in the first place. In the old times, and back in Leviticus, back in Deuteronomy, Numbers, we had laws on having servants. We had laws on dealing with these other nations. So let's go to Leviticus 25 and verse 44 to talk about the inheritance. So, verse 44, Leviticus 25 and 44 says, "Both thy bondmen and thy bondmaids, which thou shalt have, shall be of the heathen that are round about you. Of them shall ye buy bondmen and bondmaids." So, of these other nations, that the heathen round about, the same heathen that we mentioned in Psalms 2 and 1 about why did the heathen rage. So, same nations that oppressors are going to be the same people that we're going to have as bondmen and bondmaids. Verse 45 says, "Moreover, of the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you, of them shall ye buy, and of their families that are with you, which they begat in your land, and they shall be your possession." So these nations will be your possession. Verse 46, "And ye shall take them as an inheritance for your children after you, and to inherit them for a possession. They shall be your bondmen forever." So it says forever. So now we see this is back all the way back in Leviticus. But obviously something happens. Our people, they broke the commandments, and now that promise is taking longer to get to us. We're not in that position of rulership. But now that's how I let you know that this is gonna happen to this after we get the kingdom, because it says forever. So now let's go back to Psalms chapter 2 and verse 8. It says, "Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession." So the Lord promised to give us the earth as a possession and the heathen round about as our possessions as well. So all the classes, I think Bishop just had a class where he spoke about the different things like the heathen around us would be our plowmen. They're going to build up the kingdom. They can build up the walls of Jerusalem. This is what it's talking about. Verse verse 9 it says, "Thou shalt break them with a rod of iron. Thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel. Be wise now, therefore, O ye kings. Be instructed, ye judges of the earth." So the Lord is being clear who the judges of the earth are. The judges of the earth those are the judges of the earth. It says, "Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry, and ye perish from the way, when his wrath is kindled but a little. Blessed are all they that put their trust in him." So it says, the top of verse 12 says, "Kiss the Son, lest he be angry." So what is that talking about? It's talking about worshiping the Son that we mentioned already. Further up in the verse, in verse 7, is Christ. So he said worship the Son, but let me just get a precept to show y'all what that means, or to prove that that is that what it means. So we're gonna go to First Kings chapter 19 and verse. Let me see. First Kings chapter 19 and verse 18. 19 and 18. Yep. It says, "Yet I have left me 7,000 in Israel, all the knees which have not bowed unto Baal, and every mouth which have not kissed him." So kissed him. So this is talking about. This is referring to Baal, but it's showing you that the kiss part means have not worshipped Baal. So the same thing. So those that do not worship. Let's go back to Psalms real quick, so we can get the exact wording. Psalms chapter 2. In verse 12, it says, "Kiss the Son, lest he be angry, and ye perish from the way, when his wrath is kindled but a little bit. Blessed are all they that put their trust in him." If you worship the Son, you will. If he's angry, if you don't worship the Son, you'll be. You'll be. It says when his wrath is kindled but a little, so you'll perish if you do not worship the Son. So let me find the scripture real quick, and then we're gonna wrap it up. Give me 1 second. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter. Actually, no, sorry, I think it's one of the two, either Deuteronomy or Acts 1. Chapter 2. Okay, we'll do Acts chapter 3 and verse 22. So this is referring to the same person that Moses spoke about back in Deuteronomy chapter 18. It says, "For Moses truly said unto the fathers, A prophet shall the Lord your God raise up unto you of your brethren, like unto me. Him shall ye hear in all things, whatsoever he shall say unto you. And it shall come to pass that every soul which will not hear that prophet shall be destroyed from among the people." So it's the same thing that he's saying in Psalms. It says that kiss the Son lest he be angry and you perish from the way. So it's the same thing. This is the same thing that's been mentioned for all the way from Deuteronomy. If you don't, this prophet that I'm going to send, you don't worship him, you're going to be destroyed, and that's Christ. So that is it. That is it for the 4 chapters. It's pretty quick 4 chapters. So are there any questions on what we just went over? Any questions on what we just went over? Any questions? All right, looks like that's it. All praises to the Most High. Thank you, Josiah, brother Josiah, for scribing for me. Just keep following these four chapters. Like I always say, this was not around when I first came in. A lot of us didn't when we came in. This was not around, so take advantage of it. Definitely take advantage of it. Keep studying, keep enduring, and shalom, Most High in Christ bless.